Volkswagen Racing Cup champion Phil House. Very full field for this opening round, and a big lose there, coming down towards his lops. It looks like JJ O'Malley, another of the drivers stepping up from Caterhams to Ginetta's for this year. He's had a big moment under. There he goes, and you got Sean Heighton also looking for a way past. Sykes gets it wrong, too much speed into Britain's. He's out all over the weeds, back onto the tarmac now. Ahead of him has just also gone Ryan Ratcliffe, so 1 up and 3 back for Richard Sykes. It's a real blow for him as here Ratcliffe comes charging up the inside of Heighton into his lops. He's through and he's off as well, runs a little bit wide over the grass there, sideways in front of both of them. House goes on the grass in avoidance, so does Sykes. They all manage to miss him somehow, and Ratcliffe then has another spin as he tries to get going again. This a disaster for him. He's slipping further and further and further down the field. Here's the replay. You're on board with Heighton. There's Ratcliffe up the inside, too fast, into the corner, goes over the grass, slides back onto the circuit. Heighton just clips him. House gets squeezed onto the grass on the right hand. G40 battles rage on right the way through the field. Somebody else locking up there is James Owen in his orange G20. Scrabbles his way. Who is it that's gone missing? Let's try and work it out. Hard to tell from this distance as the car sits in the middle of the road. Richard Sykes goes past as well. Hopefully next time around the Island Bend. Let's have a look at what happened. Clive Richards on the inside, Mark Davis on the outside. Do they touch? Well, either way, Davis runs out of road. He gets on the slippery grass, and from this point on, he is history. The car bounces across the grass into the barrier. Crunch! Big damage on the front of the car, and Davis is going nowhere. It's not just bodywork that's damaged. You can see all the steam and smoke from the hoses that are ripped off the car. Lodge corner, Bryant just there ahead of 22. That's Mike Steadman who gets it wrong.
It's lap 1. Oh, on the grass, on the inside, Lee Mole, and out of control. That's a very hard impact in the barriers. Fortunately on the passenger door side, though. So as far away from the driver as possible. And Paul Latimer's spin halfway down the Craner curves. Another easy mistake to make. I think he has been taken out of the gravel. Worrying moment on board with Gary Sims, not far behind. Watch Latimer's car loop round. 3 G20s make contact in avoidance. And that's another heart-in-the-mouth moment on ability, because where the standing water is changes every lap, and that's Heighton off, a long way off at Coppice. Got onto the brakes a fraction late over the brow, turning into the blind double right-hander, and just did not get any retardation at all. You saw immediately he's good thinking. On board with Heighton. Off the throttle, on the brakes, wants to let it roll through the gravel as far as he can. Find a bit of grass on the exit to try and find some grip. Calvé on the left-hand side comes across, but he loops into a spin as Heighton gets out of the throttle to avoid him. And at that stage, Mark Davis leading down. Headed tyres on the G20s, giving him grip. Calvé and the others there showing they have none, and Calvé held it well on the grass to rejoin just outside the top 20. Melbourne hairpin. Well, he got late on the brakes, and it's here where he picks up the throttle. Can you see where it happened? Exactly the moment he picked up the throttle. Inside of Sean Heighton again comes Dominic Pettit, runs into the back of Davis, who spins. Heighton drifts out wide. Pettit just couldn't get the car stopped there. Well, that's a bit rude. Poor Mark Davis.
There's a replay, and he just gets the back of the car ever so slightly out of line. He can't hang on to it. Round it comes. And Rick Parfitt, who gets better and better every time out, I'm afraid, has put a bit of ink on his copybook there. It's somewhat blotted now after that. In trouble. Now, how did all that start? Let's have a look. He gets it wrong, doesn't he? Coming out of Sheen Curve through Dingle Dell. Goes sideways. He's heading for the barrier. Bang! Oh, dear, that was a big impact. Clatters it on the driver's side. He's OK, though. It's a replay of what happened. Paul Latimer going up towards Druids. I think he was tagged from behind. You can't really see it too clearly, but he got a nudge from behind. Yes, there's one car there all crossed up under braking. Latimer spat off the road into the barrier. He's able to rejoin, albeit time lost. Now he's got it wrong coming out of Hawthorns. Here's the replay. Turns through the corner, gets a real old wobble on, and eventually the back comes round. He stands on the brakes and crunch. Front right, rear right, both clang into the Armco, and that rather 20s. It's Stuart Pearson versus Dominic Pettit. Pettit ahead, but here comes Pearson on the inside. Look, it's going to be a dead heat between the two. Stuart Pearson willing the car on. Murphy arrived from. Comes up the inside, I think. There's one driver in strife already. Murphy comes into the corner, loses it, and he's a sitting duck. Bang! Hard to make out exactly who's giving him the head on there, but there's certainly two cars in the middle of the road, and that's going to bring out the safety car, possibly. This is Vicky Parrott's view, trying to pick her way through all the debris and the melee. She has done so successfully. Luke Davenport was the other driver getting it wrong. I don't think there's any damage, or is there? Let's just have a look. Was he helped into that? Possibly so. There might just have been a brush there with number 3, Neil Delargy, the former Caterham racer. So Richard Sykes spins around, able to rejoin the race though now. How she got there, gets out of the way of Ryan Ratcliffe going through the Tarzan hairpin, runs wide onto the grass, off into the gravel. She might actually have been able to drive out of that. Let's just see whether she is going to be able to rejoin. Here's her on board, into the Tarzan hairpin, keeps out of the way of the quicker car, runs out of road onto the wet grass. There's just no way back from that. Into the gravel, very frustrated Vicky Parrott. Second place, here's the replay. Comes into the Tarzan hairpin, just goes a little bit wide, a little bit too quickly, loses traction. Roundly more points for him in the championship. Up towards Dean they come. Parfitt brakes late, and he's lost it again! Too late on the brakes, round comes the back. And that, I'm afraid, was a little bit of desperation in his quest to try and catch Richards once again. He's overdriven at the Dean hairpin, round comes the back of the car, and Rick Parfitt rejoins, but he's lost even more ground now. G20s. There's Clive Richards spinning out of the top 7, and thankfully everybody somehow misses him. He bounces off the concrete wall. Let's have a look from another angle. There was no contact, just lost the car, slithered across the road. Rick Parfitt, I think, was the one that was lucky to avoid him, and that's why he's lost places, because he had to brake in avoidance, and then everybody else gets as far as the Dean hairpin. And then there's more fun and games. G20s look spinning on their own, some being tapped sideways by rather aggressive G40s. And the one that really lost out there was number 19, Harvey Booth, because he was clipped by a G40. That got him sideways. Then he was assaulted by James Owen. 18th place. Now, what happened to him this time around? He loses it, coming through turn 1, spins around the outside of a G20, hits that, also knocks one of the G40s hard into the wall. That was Paul Latimer's car. Somebody else in a real hurry there. Look lower down the order. Number 2 is Lee Molden, but he runs out of road, going into Brundle all across the grass. Slides his way back on. Here's a replay. On board with Gary Sims, and Anderson just loses it, coming out of Coram, setting the car up for Murray's. Round he goes. Sims has to stand on the brakes, take evasive action. He ducks up the inside and gains a place, and this was Ben's view of it all, coming out of Coram. Goes to the outside, wrong thing to do in a sense. Round comes the back, rotates his way back onto the circuit, drops it down a gear, keeps the engine running. The G20s and then also Ryan Ratcliffe's G40 go past. Here's the replay. He's on the tail, look, of Graham Johnson's G40, and he just gets a little bit sideways coming out of Williams, hits the brakes. Ben Anderson scuttles around the outside and gains a place, but Clive Richards has a spin, and now he's got to wait for a gap in the traffic, turn the car around, and the tree surgeon is going to tumble further and further down the Kevin Begley, that in car 7. Let's just have a quick look at the replay. Yes, there's Kevin Begley getting it wrong at Riches, and off he goes, heading for the A11. And that's a big, big, big moment for him. Goes a long, long way across the grass into the field. Kevin Begley will be able to get out of there, but a long way down the order now. 2 at Alton Park. Stuart Pearson, a winner at Donington last year, goes up the inside of Lee Molan. There's contact, and they both go across the road, and Sims almost gets wiped out in all of that, gets clobbered by the slower car that was being punted towards him. And Stuart Pearson was a bit brave there, went up the inside, the gap soon disappeared. He and turn 1. You're on board with Gary Sims. Mallet gets a little bit of a touch, gets sideways, bounces back into the side of the car that's level with him, then goes off the road altogether, heading for the barrier, and bang, Tom Mallet is out of the race. Gary Sims outside of the S's. Replay from Gary Sims' point of view, coming into Brundle, and there ahead of him getting it all wrong is Lee Molden. He goes one way, he goes the other, and through the dust cloud. Not only is Gary Sims delayed, so also from then as they come up towards the line, but the G40s have gone, and neither of them terribly sure whether it's a green flag or not. They see the green flag in the end and start racing for proper, but round the outside, Thiago Calvert gains 2 places, turns into Riches, a little bit too fast, misses the apex, misses his clipping point, and just loses it, slithers off the road. Murray's Sean Heighton goes through, Richard Sykes is second, Clive Richards right up behind him, and Sykes gets sideways and he spins right in front of the pack. Richards goes wide in avoidance, and Ryan Ratcliffe comes up on the inside to back second, and poor old Richard Sykes is sorting himself out. Sean Heighton scores a 3rd win out of 4 in the Ginetta Challenge.
Look again with Stewart battling with Gary Sims, all contact there. That may have been a little self-induced, I'm afraid, but in the cut and thrust of the opening run in the Beckett's S's, people will be braking in different places. Well, Sean Heighton into the complex, oh, and a little contact there, and I think perhaps in the slippery conditions, Mark Davis might have caught Sean Heighton out there to give him the benefit of the doubt. Looked like Davis was on the brakes and Heighton just ran into the back of him. On board. Yes, look, brake lights came on and Heighton was still on the gas, expecting that Davis would brake. Inadvertently took off the leader, but may need to serve a penalty, and oh dear, there might be something to look at there as well. Getting his nose inside Ryan Ratcliffe, Kieran Clark makes contact, Ratcliffe off on the curbs at the inside of the loop. Kieran Clark continues, but Ryan Ratcliffe's second place is now a thing of history. Took him a while to get the G40 fired back up. You just can't argue with that. Well, my Robinson gives the place away again now as he loses it, turns into Abbey just too fast, changes his mind and wavers off the throttle, and the rear tyres just keep going on in a straight line. Rejoin. Take a look here as they come into the S's, just carrying a little too much speed. Realises he's going in too deep and he nearly takes out the yellow G20 there. What happens here? Oh, JJ O'Malley facing the wrong way, and Thiago with nose damage on his car. Should we put 2 and 2 together there? I think we probably can. Here, oh, contact from behind. I'm afraid that looked like Luke Davenport stuck his nose in and Begley had no idea he was there. Well, here's White, turns in on the outside line, gets on the dirt, and just goes straight across the Beckett's S's. Oh, and somebody's gone smoking off the circuit. Oh, that looks like our race 1 winner, Clive Richards, I think. Yes, it is. Look, here's the number 4 machine coming out onto the Wellington straight, accelerating hard. Puff of smoke. Oh, my goodness. Is that a 1980s Formula 1 turbo engine? It certainly went up like one.